The diner's bell jingled. But Riley Harper didn't look up. Her hands trembled as she wiped the counter, grease stains smearing under her rag like the weight of her life. She was 24, broke, and drowning in a town that forgot her name. The fluorescent lights buzzed above the near-empty diner in Willow Creek, a speck of a place in rural Pennsylvania. Riley's apron hung loose on her slim frame, her dark hair pulled into a messy bun. She'd been on her feet for 12 hours, serving truckers and locals who barely tipped. Her life was a cycle of spilled coffee, forced smiles, and a one-room apartment she could barely afford. But tonight felt different, heavier, like the air held a secret it wasn't ready to spill. At the counter sat Arthur Grayson, an 80-year-old man in a suit too fine for a place like this. His silver hair caught the light, and his eyes sharp, kind, and impossibly warm watched Riley with quiet intensity. He'd been coming in every evening for a month, always ordering black coffee and a slice of pie he barely touched. He left $100 tips, which Riley slipped into her pocket with a mix of guilt and gratitude. She didn't know why he kept coming back, but she wasn't complaining. Those tips paid her rent. Evening. Arthur, Riley said, pouring his coffee. Her voice was soft, cautious, like she was afraid to scare him off. Evening. Riley, he replied, his voice smooth despite his age. You look tired tonight. She laughed, a small, brittle sound. When don't I? She slid the pie across the counter, her fingers brushing the plate. You gonna eat this one or just stare at it again? Arthur chuckled, but his eyes didn't leave her. Maybe I'm here for the company, not the pie. Riley blushed, ducking her head. She wasn't used to compliments, especially not from someone like Arthur. He was a mysterious man who carried himself like he owned the world but sat in her rundown diner like it was home. She'd heard whispers about him in town, Arthur Grayson, the millionaire who'd made his fortune in real estate, retired to Willow Creek for reasons no one could pin down. Some said he was grieving a lost love. Others said he was hiding from something. Riley didn't care. He was kind, and kindness was rare. That night, as the last customer left, Arthur lingered. The diner was silent except for the hum of the fridge. He leaned forward, his hands clasped around his untouched coffee. Riley, he said, his voice low, what if I told you I could change your life? Her heart skipped. She froze, rag in hand, and met his gaze. What do you mean? I mean a way out of this. He gestured to the diner, the cracked linoleum, the flickering lights. A life where you don't have to count pennies or cry yourself to sleep. Riley's throat tightened. She'd never told anyone about the nights she sobbed in her tiny apartment, terrified she'd never escape this town. How do you know I see you, he said simply. And I see someone who deserves more. She didn't know why she believed him. Maybe it was his steady gaze or the way his words felt like a lifeline. But when he proposed right there, in the empty diner, with no ring, just a promise, she said yes. It wasn't love. Not yet. It was hope. Raw and desperate. A week later, they were married in a quiet courthouse ceremony. Riley wore a thrift store dress, and Arthur gave her a smile that made her feel like she was enough. She moved into his sprawling estate on the edge of town, a mansion that felt like a dream she didn't belong in. For the first time, she thought she'd made it out. But on the seventh night, as she wandered the mansion's halls, she found a locked room. Behind the door, she heard whispers, not voices, but something softer, like memories trapped in the air. When she asked Arthur about it, his face changed, the warmth replaced by something unreadable. Some truths, he said, are better left buried. Riley's stomach twisted. She'd married a man she barely knew. And now, the weight of that choice pressed down on her. What was he hiding? And why did it feel like her new life was built on a lie? The mansion's grandeur was suffocating. Crystal chandeliers cast fractured light across marble floors. But Riley felt like an intruder, her footsteps echoing too loudly in the silence. She'd traded her diner apron for silk dresses, but the weight of Arthur's secret clung to her like damp cloth. That morning, she tried to ask about the locked room again. Arthur had been in his study, surrounded by leather-bound books and papers yellowed with age. "It's nothing, Riley," he'd said, his voice gentle but firm. "Just an old man's clutter." She didn't believe him. His eyes had darted to the side, and his hands, usually steady, trembled as he closed a drawer. She spent the day exploring the estate, her curiosity battling her fear. The mansion was a maze of opulent rooms, but it felt hollow, like a stage set for a play no one performed. In the library, she found photos of Arthur from decades past, a younger man with the same sharp eyes, standing beside a woman with a radiant smile. Her name was etched on the frame, Eleanor. Riley's heart sank. Was this the lost love the townsfolk whispered about? That night, unable to sleep, Riley slipped out of their shared bedroom. Arthur's breathing was slow, his face peaceful in the moonlight, but she couldn't shake the feeling that he was a stranger. She crept to the locked room, her bare feet cold against the hardwood. The whispers were louder now. Not words, but emotions: grief, love, regret. She pressed her ear to the door, her pulse racing. "Riley." Arthur's voice startled her. He stood at the end of the hall, his silhouette frail but commanding. "What are you doing?" "I heard something," she stammered, her face flushing. "What's in there?" "Arthur, why won't you tell me?" He sighed, his shoulders sagging. "It's not about you. It's my past." "Then let me in," she said, her voice breaking. "I'm your wife now. Don't shut me out." For a moment, he looked like he might relent. But then he shook his head. "Not yet. Please, trust me." Trust. The word felt like a blade. She'd trusted him when she said yes, when she left her old life behind. But now, doubt gnawed at her. Was she just a replacement for Eleanor? Or something warsy pawn in a game she didn't understand? The next day, Riley drove into town, her new life already fraying. At the diner, her old co-workers greeted her with wide eyes and hushed questions. "You're living the dream, girl," said Marla, the head waitress. But Riley didn't feel like a princess. She felt like a trespasser. On her way back, she stopped at the local library, digging through old newspapers. She found articles about Arthur's empire, his philanthropy, his rise to wealth. But one headline stopped her cold: "Millionaire's partner disappears after gala." The article was vague, mentioning Eleanor's sudden absence 20 years ago. No body, no answers, just rumors of a broken heart. Riley's hands shook as she read. Had Arthur loved Eleanor? Had he hurt her? She drove home, the questions burning in her chest. That night, she confronted him in the dining room, the chandelier casting shadows like bars across his face. Who was Eleanor? She demanded. Arthur froze, his fork hovering midair. Where did you hear that name? The library. The papers. She was your partner, wasn't she? What happened to her? His face crumpled, not with guilt, but with pain. She was everything to me, he whispered. But she's gone. That's all you need to know. No, Riley snapped, her voice rising. I need the truth. Arthur, I married you. I deserve to know who I'm sharing my life with. He looked at her, his eyes glistening. The truth isn't what you think, Riley. But it's not time yet. She stormed out, her heart pounding. The mansion felt like a cage now, its beauty hiding something dark. As she lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, she made a decision. She'd find the truth herself even if it broke her. Riley's days became a quiet rebellion. She smiled at Arthur over breakfast, laughed at his stories, but her mind was elsewhere, piecing together the puzzle of his past. The locked room haunted her, its whispers louder in her dreams. She started small, searching the mansion when Arthur was out. She found nothing in his study but tax records and business ledgers. The attic held dusty furniture, but no clues. The locked room remained her obsession, its key nowhere in sight. She even tried picking the lock with a hairpin, her hands shaking as she knelt in the dark hallway. The lock didn't budge. One afternoon, while Arthur napped, Riley found a small box in his closet, hidden beneath a stack of sweaters. Inside was a locket, gold and worn, with a photo of Eleanor inside. Her smile was warm, her eyes bright with life. On the back, an inscription, "Forever. My love." A&E. Riley's chest tightened. She wasn't jealous she didn't love Arthur. Not like that, but the locket felt like proof of something she couldn't name. That evening, she slipped into town again, this time to the Historical Society. The librarian, an older woman named Clara, recognized Arthur's name. "Oh, Arthur Grayson," she said, her voice tinged with nostalgia. He was a charmer back in the day. But after Eleanor vanished, he changed, shut himself off from the world. Did anyone know what happened to her? Riley asked, her voice low. Clara shook her head. Some said she ran off. Others, well, they said worse. But there was never proof. Just talk. Riley's stomach churned. She thanked Clara and left, her mind racing. Back at the mansion, she watched Arthur more closely. He was kind, attentive, even tender. But there was a distance in his eyes, like he was guarding a wound. One night, as they sat by the fireplace, Arthur reached for her hand. "You're quiet lately," he said. "What's wrong?" Riley hesitated. She wanted to trust him, to believe in the man who'd offered her a way out. But the locket, the locked room, the whispers, they were too loud. "I found something," she admitted. "A locket. Eleanor's." Arthur's face paled. He pulled his hand away, his jaw tight. "You've been digging." "I had to." she said, her voice shaking. You won't tell me anything. I'm living in a house full of secrets. Arthur, how am I supposed to feel safe? He stood, his movement slow, deliberate. I told you, Riley. Some things are better left alone. But I can't, she said, tears burning her eyes. I can't live like this, wondering if I married a monster. The word hung between them, heavy and sharp. Arthur's face softened, but he didn't speak. Instead, he walked away, leaving Riley alone with the crackling fire and her growing fear. The next day, she found a key hidden in a drawer in Arthur's study. It was small, tarnished, and cold in her hand. Her heart raced as she approached the locked room, the whispers louder than ever. She slid the key into the lock, her breath catching as it turned with a soft click. The door swung open, revealing a small, dimly lit room. Inside was a shrinnia table covered with photos of Eleanor, letters, and dried flowers. But there was something else, a journal, its pages worn and yellowed. Riley opened it, her hands trembling, and began to read. The words were Arthur's, written in a shaky hand. They spoke of love, loss, and a secret so devastating it could destroy everything. Riley's eyes widened as she read, her heart pounding. Eleanor hadn't disappeared. She'd never left. The journal's pages felt alive under Riley's fingers, each word a pulse of Arthur's hidden truth. Eleanor was transgender, the journal revealed. Her transition a secret they'd guarded fiercely in a world that wasn't ready. Arthur had loved her deeply, not despite who she was, but because of it. The entries began decades ago, when Arthur and Eleanor met in Philadelphia. She'd been a performer, her voice captivating crowds, her presence magnetic. Arthur, already wealthy, had been drawn to her courage, her defiance of a society that demanded conformity. They'd built a life together, hidden in plain sight, their love a quiet rebellion against the world's judgment. But the journal darkened. Eleanor's family disowned her, and the media hounded them, sniffing out rumors of her past. Arthur wrote of their fear, their late-night talks about running away. Then, one night after a gala, Eleanor vanished. The journal didn't say why, only that Arthur blamed himself. I couldn't protect her, he wrote. I failed her, and I'll carry that forever. Riley's hands shook as she closed the journal. She wasn't sure what she'd expected proof of a crime. Maybe. Or a betrayal, but not this. Not a love story steeped in pain and sacrifice. She sank to the floor, the shrine's candles flickering around her. Eleanor's face stared back from the photos, her eyes full of life and defiance. Footsteps broke the silence. Arthur stood in the doorway, his face a mix of sorrow and resignation. You found it, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Why didn't you tell me? Riley asked, tears streaming down her face. This is beautiful. Arthur, why hide it? He stepped inside, his gaze fixed on the shrine. Because it hurts too much. And because I was afraid you'd leave if you knew the truth. Leave? Riley stood, her voice trembling with emotion. Arthur, this doesn't scare me. It makes me admire you. You loved her so fiercely. He shook his head, his eyes glistening. You don't understand. Riley, There's more. Something I've never told anyone. Her heart stopped. What? He hesitated, then sat beside the shrine, his hands clasped tightly. Eleanor didn't just disappear. She chose to leave. To protect me. Riley frowned, confused. Protect you? From what? From her truth, he said, his voice breaking. She was tired of hiding, tired of the whispers and threats. She wanted to live openly. But I begged her to stay hidden. I thought I was keeping her safe, but I was suffocating her. So she left, and I let her go. Riley's chest ached. She could feel his guilt, heavy as the air in the room. Where is she now? She asked softly. I don't know, Arthur said, his voice raw. She didn't want me to find her. But I've spent 20 years trying to make up for it, helping others like her in secret. That's why I came to Willow Creek. To fund shelters. To support people who needed to be themselves. Riley stared at him, her fear replaced by awe. This was the man she'd married, not a monster, but a man carrying a love so deep it had broken him. She reached for his hand, her fingers curling around his. You should have told me, she said. I would have understood. Arthur looked at her, his eyes searching hers. Would you? You're so young. Riley, you have your own battles. I didn't want to burden you with mine. You're not a burden, she said fiercely. You're my husband. For the first time, she felt the weight of that word. Not just a title, but a promise. She didn't love him not yet, but she cared. Deeply. For the man who'd given her a chance at a new life. And now, she wanted to give him something back, understanding. The revelation changed everything. Riley no longer saw the mansion as a cage, but as a monument to Arthur's love and guilt. She spent her days learning more about him. Not through secrets, but through conversations. Over coffee in the mornings, he shared stories of Eleanor's courage, her laughter, her dreams. Riley listened, her heart opening to a man she'd once thought was just her ticket out of poverty. But the town wasn't as forgiving. Word of their marriage had spread, and whispers followed Riley everywhere. At the grocery store, eyes lingered too long. At the diner, where she still visited Marla, customers muttered about gold diggers and old fools. Riley ignored them, but the judgment stung. She wasn't in love with Arthur. Not romantically, but she respected him. Wasn't that enough? One evening, a letter arrived, slipped under the mansion's gate. It was unsigned, written in sharp, angry script. You don't belong here. Leave him. Riley's hands shook as she showed it to Arthur. He read it, his face unreadable, then tossed it into the fire. People fear what they don't understand, he said. Let them talk. But the letters kept coming, each one crueler than the last. He's hiding something. One read, You're not the first. Riley tried to shrug them off, but doubt crept back in. Arthur had told her about Eleanor. But what if there were other secrets? What if the town's hatred wasn't just prejudice, but a warning? She started volunteering at a local shelter Arthur funded, a place for LGBTQ youth who'd been kicked out of their homes. The kids were vibrant, resilient, and heartbreakingly young. Riley saw Eleanor in them, the same defiance, the same need to be seen. She threw herself into the work, hoping to honor Arthur's mission, but also to quiet her own fears. One day, a girl at the shelter, Jamie, pulled Riley aside. "You're married to Mr. Grayson, right?" she asked, her voice low. Riley nodded. "Wary." "Yeah." "Why?" Jamie hesitated, then handed her a photo. It was old, faded, but unmistakable. Eleanor, laughing at a pride event, her arm around a younger Arthur. "This was in my mom's things," Jamie said. "She used to talk about a woman named Eleanor who helped her when she came out. Said she was like an angel." Riley's heart raced. "Your mom knew Eleanor?" Jamie nodded. "She said Eleanor disappeared one day. No one knew why. But she always thought Mr. Grayson had something to do with it." The words hit like a punch. Riley thanked Jamie and left, the photo burning a hole in her pocket. That night, she confronted Arthur again, holding up the photo. "Did you know Eleanor helped people like Jamie's mom? Why didn't you tell me she was out there, making a difference?" Arthur's face softened, but his eyes were distant. She never wanted credit. That was her way. She gave everything and asked for nothing. "Then why did she leave you?" Riley pressed. "If she was so strong, why run?" Arthur's silence was deafening. Finally, he spoke, his voice barely audible. "Because I wasn't strong enough for her. I loved her, but I was afraid. Afraid of what the world would do to us if her truth came out. So I let her go, thinking it was for her safety. But it broke us both." Riley's anger softened into sorrow. She saw the weight he carried, the regret that had shaped his life. "You're not that man anymore," she said. "You're helping people now. You're making a difference." He shook his head. "It's not enough. It'll never be enough." Riley reached for his hand, her resolve hardening. "Then let me help you make it enough. Let's do this together." For the first time, Arthur smiled a real, unguarded smile. And Riley felt something shift inside her, a spark of something deeper than duty. Riley threw herself into the shelter's work, her days filled with purpose. She organized fundraisers, listened to the kids' stories, and saw Arthur's quiet generosity in action. He didn't just write checks. He showed up, talked to the kids, remembered their names. Riley watched him, her respect growing into something warmer, something she wasn't ready to name. But the town's hostility didn't fade. The letters turned into vandalism, smashed windows at the shelter, slurs painted on the walls. Riley's fear returned, sharper now. She and Arthur were building something good, but someone wanted to tear it down. One night, after cleaning graffiti from the shelter's door, Riley found another letter, this one addressed to her. "You're not safe," it read. "He's not what he seems." Her hands shook as she showed it to Arthur. He read it, his face hardening. "This ends now," he said. He called a town meeting, inviting everyone's supporters, skeptics, and enemies. Riley stood beside him in the community center, her heart pounding as the room filled with familiar faces. Marla from the diner, Clara from the library, even Jamie's mom, who'd known Eleanor. Arthur spoke, his voice steady despite his age. "I know you've heard rumors about me," he began. "About my past, my wealth, my marriage to Riley. I'm here to set the record straight. He told them about Eleanor. Her courage. Her truth. He spoke of their love. Their fear. And her choice to leave. He admitted his mistakes. His cowardice. And his work to make amends. The room was silent. Some faces softening. Others hardening with judgment. And Riley, he said, turning to her, is not just my wife. She's my partner in this fight. She's shown me what courage looks like today. Riley's throat tightened. She hadn't expected his words, or the pride in his eyes. She stepped forward, her voice trembling but clear. I didn't marry Arthur for his money. I married him because he saw me when no one else did. And now, I see him. We're not perfect, but we're trying to do right by this town, by the kids who need us. Some clapped. Others walked out. But Riley felt lighter, like she'd claimed her place in this strange, beautiful life. That night, as they drove home, Arthur reached for her hand. You were incredible, he said. Eleanor would have loved you. Riley smiled, her heart full. I think I would have loved her too. But the peace didn't last. The next morning, Riley found a package on the mansion's doorstep. Inside was a single photo, Eleanor, older but unmistakable, standing in a city park. On the back, in Sharpie, she's alive. Ask him why he lied. Riley's blood ran cold. Arthur had said Eleanor was gone. Her whereabouts unknown. But this photo was recent. The date stamped in the corner. She confronted him in his study, holding up the photo. You said you didn't know where she was. What is this? Arthur. His face crumpled. Not with guilt, but with fear. I didn't lie, he said. I haven't seen her in 20 years. But someone's trying to hurt us. Who? Riley demanded. And why? Arthur's silence was answer enough. Someone knew the truth, someone who wanted to destroy them. Riley's resolve hardened. She wasn't just fighting for herself now. She was fighting for Arthur. For Eleanor. For the life they were building. Riley couldn't sleep. The photo of Eleanor burned in her mind. Its implications a tangle of fear and betrayal. She trusted Arthur. But the evidence was mounting letters. Vandalism. Now this. Someone was watching them. And they knew more about Eleanor than Arthur was willing to admit. She started investigating. Discreetly at first. She reached out to Jamie's mom, who confirmed the photo was recent. Taken at a Pride event in Philadelphia. I saw her there, she said. She looked happy, but distant, like she was carrying something heavy. Riley's heart raced. Eleanor was alive, living her truth. But why hadn't she reached out to Arthur? And who was sending these messages? She dug deeper, scouring social media, old articles, anything that might connect the dots. She found a name, Thomas Reed, a former business partner of Arthur's who'd lost everything when their company split. The articles hinted at bad blood, but nothing concrete. One night, Riley followed a lead to a bar on the edge of town, a place where locals traded secrets over cheap beer. She sat in a corner, nursing a soda, when a man approached mid-50s, grizzled, with eyes that burned with resentment. You're Grayson's new wife, he said, his voice low. I'm Thomas. Riley's pulse quickened. What do you want? He leaned closer, his breath sour. To warn you, Arthur's not the saint he pretends to be. He ruined me. And he'll ruin you too. She held his gaze, refusing to flinch. Why should I believe you? He slid a USB drive across the table. See for yourself. But be careful. He doesn't like loose ends. Riley took the drive, her hands trembling. Back at the mansion, she plugged it into her laptop, her heart pounding. It contained email hundreds of them between Arthur and Thomas from 20 years ago. They detailed a plan to hide Eleanor's identity, to pay off reporters, to silence anyone who got too close. One email from Arthur chilled her. If she goes public, we lose everything. Keep her quiet. Whatever it takes. Riley's stomach twisted. Had Arthur forced Eleanor to leave? Had he paid Thomas to make her disappear? She confronted him that night, the USB drive in her hand. Did you do this? She demanded. Did you make her run? Arthur's face paled. No, he said, his voice breaking. I never wanted her gone. Thomas, he twisted everything. He wanted my money, my company. When Eleanor left, he used it against me, spread lies to ruin me. Then why didn't you fight back? Riley asked, tears in her eyes. Why let everyone think you were a monster? Because I believed I was, he said, his voice raw. I failed her. Riley. I let fear win. She wanted to believe him, but the emails were damning. She spent the next day piecing together the truth, contacting old colleagues of Arthur's, digging through financial records. She found proof Thomas had blackmailed Arthur, threatening to out Eleanor unless he paid. Arthur had refused, and Thomas had lost his stake in the company. Riley's anger shifted from Arthur to Thomas. He was behind the letters, the vandalism, the photo. He wanted revenge, and Riley was caught in the crossfire. She decided to confront him, to end this once and for all. She met Thomas at the bar again, this time with a recorder in her pocket. I know what you did, she said, her voice steady. You're trying to destroy him. Why? Thomas smirked. Because he took everything from me. And now, I'll take everything from you. Riley leaned closer, her eyes blazing. Try it. I'm not afraid of you. Riley's confrontation with Thomas was a gamble, but she was done running from the truth. She played the recording for Arthur, her hands steady despite the fear in her chest. He's been behind it all, she said. The letters, the vandalism, the photo. He wants to hurt you, Arthur, and he's using me to do it. Arthur listened, his face a mask of grief and resolve. I should have stopped him years ago, he said. I thought if I stayed quiet, he'd move on. I was wrong. Together, they went to the police, handing over the recording and the USB drive. Thomas was arrested the next day, charged with harassment and extortion. The town buzzed with the news, some still skeptical, but others began to see Arthur differently. The shelter's work continued, stronger than ever, with Riley at its heart. But the real breakthrough came a week later. A letter arrived. This time not a threat, but a message from Eleanor herself. She'd seen the news, heard about Arthur's confession at the town meeting. I never stopped loving you, she wrote. But I had to live my truth. I'm sorry I hurt you. Arthur wept as he read it. Riley at his side. She felt no jealousy, only relief. Eleanor was alive, safe, and free. Riley helped Arthur write a response, pouring out his regrets, his love, his pride in her courage. They mailed it to a P.O. box in Philadelphia, hoping it would reach her. Months passed, and Riley and Arthur grew closer. Their bond forged not in romance, but in shared purpose. They expanded the shelter, opened a second location, and became a beacon for those who felt invisible. Riley found her own strength. No longer the scared waitress, but a woman who'd faced fear and won. One spring evening, as they sat on the mansion's porch, Arthur took her hand. "You've given me a second chance," he said. "Not just to live, but to love the world again." Riley smiled, her heart full. "You gave me a chance first. I'm just returning the favor." They never heard from Eleanor again, but her presence lingered in the shelter, in Arthur's stories, in the courage Riley carried forward. The town still whispered, but Riley didn't care. She'd found a home, not in the mansion, but in the life she and Arthur had built together. Their marriage wasn't a fairy tale. It was better real, flawed, and fiercely human. And in that truth, Riley found her own.